Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. I'm 24, female, and I've been living alone for a while. I have a pretty good life with a high paying job and healthy relationships all around. So, usually I don't complain about much, but this time I've been so irritated by my own dad that I don't see any other option but to talk about it. And since this subreddit is as good a place as any to ask for advice and reflect on my behavior, I'll start here. So, it was my 24th birthday this year, and I was really excited for it since it'll be my first birthday after graduating college and while I'm a working woman. My whole energy was different this year, and so many positive things have happened that I couldn't help but be very excited to welcome my 25th. I decided to go big this time and threw a house party. Everyone from my friends to my colleagues were invited. Since it's just me and my dad in my family, I really wanted him to come, and I made him promise he wouldn't miss this one at any cost. He promised me he'll be there and I don't have to worry too much. The preparations were in full swing. I went to taste test about a million cakes before I could find the perfect one and had to go through about a dozen chefs before deciding on the caterers. I needed to make sure that everything was perfect. I even printed out ivory invitation cards and sent them to every guest on the list. The wine was ordered a month before my birthday so that it can arrive on time. I felt like I was planning a wedding and not a birthday party, but I was so excited that I couldn't help going overboard. About a week before my birthday, my dad called me and asked me if he could bring a plus one to my house party. I was surprised because I didn't know he was dating anybody. My mom hadn't been in the picture since I was 2 years old, and it's always been just me and my dad. While raising me, he did try to date a little, but nothing turned out to be serious, and he finally just gave up. He completely focused on me and his work. Once I turned 16, I asked him to take a step back from his responsibilities and look for a partner because I will leave home pretty soon and he needs someone in his life. My dad did try again, but the results were the same. After dating a few more times, he completely gave up and told me he's happy with just his work and I don't have to hold myself back for his sake and live my life. I did worry a little about him, but he was right about how I needed to live my life without regrets. So after graduating from high school, I left home and only visited him on weekends or once every month or so. Every time I'd ask him if he's dating again, and without a beat, he'd say no. That's why it was quite a surprise when he told me he wanted to bring a plus one to my house party. I instantly told him I'd be happy to have him bring someone else. I tried to pry a little more and ask about this person he was bringing with him, but he was as tight lipped as ever about his personal life. He didn't give me any clue and just told me it's a birthday surprise. I finally gave up and ended the call. On top of planning everything, I was also anxious about the person who finally managed to capture his attention. After years of dating so many people, my dad finally found someone good enough to bring them to meet me. I was really happy. When my birthday finally arrived, I was eagerly waiting for my dad to come. The party was in full swing and most of the guests had arrived. I was the birthday girl and the hostess, so I was quite busy socializing and looking after the people who came. The mood was light and happy, and finally my dad called me to let me know he was here. I almost ran up to the door in my eagerness to see this mystery person he was bringing. But as soon as I saw him walking down my driveway, I froze. I was a little confused. As my dad came up to me and gave me a hug, I asked him, "Where is his girlfriend?" My dad laughed and told me to quit joking and introduced the person next to him as his girlfriend. I unbelievably laughed and told him to be serious. I asked him if that person was just his girlfriend's daughter or something, but my dad gave me a serious look and told me not to poke fun at their age difference. He put a hand around the girl's waist and then ushered her inside. The girl gave me a quick smile and then let him guide her around. I was still standing at the door, completely shocked. The girl was barely 24. She looked to be even younger than me, and my dad was dating this person. Like he's dating a girl the same age as his daughter. How messed up was that? Now, I was quite eager to finally see my dad find someone he could spend all his life with, but no way in hell can I accept this girl. I could never call a person young enough to be my sister as my stepmom. I went inside to find my dad and talk some sense into him, but I found them all over each other at the wine station. He was feeding her the snacks, and oh my God, I couldn't even bring myself to be in their vicinity. I decided to avoid them for the rest of the party and talk to him the next day. The next morning, my dad got up early and was in such a good mood that I couldn't bring myself to take that away from him. I also had to leave for work, so I dropped the idea of talking to him. By that evening, it was too late because he had already left to go back to his house. AITA for not being able to accept his relationship and constantly thinking about changing his mind about it? Is it normal for people to have such a huge age gap? And am I just being stuck up about it? And if this thing is bothering me so much, will I be an a-hole to dump this load on my dad instead of sorting out my own problems? So I read all the replies on my original post about my dad and his way too young of a girlfriend. I'm thankful for people who gave me advice, and finally I decided to talk with my dad about how I felt and see how he reacts. I invited my dad over to my house this weekend and told him that I needed to talk to him. He tried to ask me what it was about, but I said that it's important and it's something that I cannot bring myself to say over the phone. I heard his concern in his voice when he asked me if everything was okay and told him he should not worry about me and it's just a conversation that I wanted to have since my birthday. When the following weekend came, my dad came home. I sat him down at the poolside and offered him a drink. I figured alcohol might help me get through this conversation much better. After a while, when my dad saw that I wasn't going to start the conversation, he asked me directly what was the matter and why am I hesitating so much. I was grateful for his direct question, and taking a deep breath, I started telling him about how I feel. I told him how uncomfortable I was with his girlfriend and the huge age gap they had. I asked him if he really wants someone who is young enough to be his daughter as his wife, and why would he get serious with such a person? I told him how it's very hard for me to accept that person in my life, and how in future, if things go that far, I would never be able to call her my stepmom. I told him I almost feel ashamed and would like him to reconsider his current relationship. My dad was silent for a while, and I became curious about his inner thoughts. When he finally said something, he just asked me if it was not in my abilities to find just a small place to accept my dad's happiness without being judgmental or being ashamed. He sounded so hurt that I almost cried. But I also knew that I wouldn't be able to look past their age gap, and it was better to be straightforward with him rather than give him false comfort. When I told this to my dad, he got furious and just said he had never asked anything of me and that me denying him this small thing is just disappointing. Then he just got up and left. He didn't even wait to hear my reply. Since then, I have been living in a constant state of regret, and no matter how much I tried to contact my dad, he wouldn't pick up my calls or reply to my texts. I just want to apologize to him and make things right, but I've come to understand that he needs his time to come to terms with my feelings. Finally, after a month, I was able to get in touch with my dad. He called me first, and when I picked up, he said he was going to visit me the next day, so I should cancel any plans I have. And just like that, without waiting for my reply, he ended the call. Not gonna lie, that was very offending, but since I was the one who hurt him first, his anger was understandable, so I decided to let it go, and honestly, I was just glad he was talking to me. The next evening, he came to my house and told me we should talk before anything else. Once we were settled, he told me that he had considered my feelings a lot in the past month and even tried his best to think of a life where he'll be able to date some more and find a partner that wouldn't make me feel ashamed. But no matter how hard he tried, he knew that he's too old to date and he is so picky that it would be almost impossible to find someone else for him. He is considerate of my feelings, and because he wants us to be on good terms, he has decided to keep his relationship a separate part from me. He told me that I don't have to accept his girlfriend or do anything that is expected of a stepdaughter. He said that if I don't want to, I don't have to have any relationship with his girlfriend and he wouldn't mind. Hearing him say that, I was so relieved that he doesn't hate me and is really trying here. I hugged him and told him thanks for considering how I feel. I told him that I'll try to meet him halfway and would respect his girlfriend and his relationship. Hopefully, in the future, I'll be able to come to terms with their age gap, but for now, it's enough that my dad knows where I stand, and this isn't something that would bring a rift between us. YTA. I don't think age really matters nowadays, and if your father found a person to stay with after years of being single, then you should just accept his choice and not create an unnecessary fuss over it. I am 17, male. My mom had me when she was young. My grandparents were strictly religious and disowned her soon after I was born. The family cut contact with her, save for a few relatives. My mom struggled a lot in her life. She worked a lot and saved money for me to go to medical school, which has been a dream since I was 11. No one helped. And I remember when mom got sick and we were about to be homeless, her brother, my uncle, Frank, 37, refused to take us in, saying his wife was sick and there was no room for us. Her friend took us in, then mom got back on her feet. She unfortunately passed away 6 months ago. Her best friend is trusted with my inheritance, but some days ago she told me she received a call from Frank asking about the money. He told her his wife's dealing with medical issues and he asked if I could help pay for her surgery. My mom's friend told me this and had Frank visit me. I told him I didn't feel comfortable taking from my college fund after my mom worked hard for me to be able to have a future. He complained to me about his financial situation, reminded me of how he never approved of what his parents did to mom, and went on about how close she and him were. I apologized and politely said no. He started begging, saying he already tried every option out there and all he needs now is some financial help or a loan from me, and he'll pay me back shortly. I refused again, and he began having a breakdown, crying about wanting to help his wife but feeling helpless, then told me to think about what mom would want me to do. This honestly was enough to get me to go into my room because of how uncomfortable he made me. He left, but took my number from a friend at school and started calling me about this issue and pressing me, saying I have the ability to help my aunt, but am choosing not to and refusing to help. He even had some of my relatives visit to talk about it. I feel a mix of guilt and frustration right now. My mom's friend says it's up to me whether I wanted to help family. Am I an a-hole for refusing to give him from my inheritance? NTA, and you need to stay firm on this. At the end of the day, your inheritance will probably only be a drop in the bucket to cover the medical bills, but at serious detriment to your life if you end up taking out student loans to cover college instead. He reaped what he sowed when he refused to help you and your mom when you were on the verge of homelessness, and your mom would have left money to him if she wanted him to have some. The real AH here is your friend who gave him your number. NTAOP, but your mom's friend is for prompting you to meet him in the first place. She helped place unneeded pressure on your shoulders when your mom trusted her to look out for you. It is horrible that he's having to deal with this, but he is also the AH for pressuring a grieving teenager. NTA, he is an adult, and when all those family members are harassing you, a minor child, for money, ask them why are they not helping him more. They are plenty older and probably have income of some kind from jobs or savings or can get loans to help him if they care so much. He just sees you as an easy target. Stay strong and block them all. If they don't stop, talk to your mom's friend about getting the harassment to stop. Do not sacrifice your future for them. I, 32 female, will be getting married next year. We were talking about our wedding plans over dinner when my mom asked about the dress. It's not going to be an extravagant wedding, but I would like to wear a nice dress. This is probably the only time I'll get to wear something formal, and you'll see why. My mom asked me when I'm going to start dress shopping. I hate to say this, but I blurted out, Who says you are going with me? I love my mom, but she is controlling. Being an immigrant with no concept of American culture is another thing. Back when I was in high school, I wanted to attend prom with my friends, but my mom and I got into an argument over what I was going to wear. I wanted a fancy, sparkling dress like what my friends were getting, and she wanted me to wear one of her dresses. This outdated black dress from the 80s, which looked terrible on me. Like, I cried when I put it on. I didn't want to wear it. We fought over it, and it ended with me not being allowed to go. Since I wasn't allowed to have a job at the time, I couldn't come up with the money myself to pay for my dress or ticket. I still kind of resent her for this, as there are a number of things from high school I either was barred from doing, sports, marching band, senior trip, French class, or got forced into doing and hated, scholarship clubs, Chinese class, best buddies. There was some back and forth, but in the end, I made my point clear. I was still mad at her for making me miss out on a huge milestone over something as stupid as a dress. I want to be able to pick something I want to wear without her input, or trying to get me to wear the other outdated monstrosity that is her wedding dress to save money. I'm digging my heels into this point, but my dad called an hour ago saying that I really hurt her feelings. I'm pretty sure I heard crying on the other end of the line, so maybe I took it too far this time. I need an outside opinion. On one hand, I don't want her to control this second chance I have. But on the other hand, I did make her cry. AITA? Oh, boo hoo, her feelings are hurt. Well, now, she knows how it feels to miss a major milestone. And of course, she's never apologized or made it up to you, but she's the victim. LOL. NTA, your mom has proven she isn't to be trusted with an event of this nature. Her tears are her own responsibility, not yours. Don't fall for it. NTA, she's not entitled to this experience with you, and she's shown she doesn't have the restraint to let you live out your big moments without her shadow. Parents who have a habit of overly restrictive and controlling their kids don't get to be mad when their kids stop wanting their input. My mom made a lot of mistakes with me too, and it's caused a lot of issues with our communication and ability to coexist. So I get where you're coming from, and you should not make yourself feel bad for protecting this experience. If you think you can talk out an understanding, especially with someone else, ideally MOH, who'd be willing to advocate for you, then I'd suggest that, especially if she understands that she is not to discourage dresses you clearly lean towards, and that her preference and opinion are not the focus of the day. NTA, she's sad she's missing this big milestone in your life, but you missed a lot of big milestones in your life because of her decisions. If you don't feel that she'll support what you want on your wedding day, don't bring her. And if she's crying, well, I bet you cried when you couldn't go to your prom or your marching band or your senior trip. Where was all the concern about people's hurt feelings then? If she wants to make amends for controlling you as a child, she needs to apologize and accept that she's done herself out of being included in dress shopping. If she does it sincerely enough, you might reconsider, but that's your call. If what she actually wants is a say in the dress, she ain't coming. And if she's just very upset to realize her relationship with her daughter has come to this, then she needs to make amends. See the first sentence? But don't let her anywhere near wedding planning until you have an apology you believe in.